We have now finished the final seminar of this year's Geopolitical Garden. It was a seminar on European security, where we had Paul Jonson, Minister of Defense. We had Ambassador Ludger Siemes, the German ambassador to Sweden. We had Mikael Granholm, the Director General for the Defense Materiel Administration. And we had Karl-Heinz Grossmann, who's the Senior Vice President and Head of International Business at Airbus. This was a very, very enlightening seminar, I would say. I have quite a few key takeaways, but also some dimensions that I thought that the panelists didn't mention, and more specifically, the one dimension that I think should have been mentioned is the fact that when we talk about the Russian full scale of Ukraine, the defense minister very correctly pointed out that the Russian aggression didn't start in 2022. It started towards Ukraine. It started in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea. The German ambassador also added that Russian imperialistic tendencies could already be seen in the invasion of Georgia in 2008. But I would go even further back than that and say that the second Chechen war started in 1999 was the one that really illuminated the ambition of President Putin. In 1999, President Putin was recently elected as then prime minister in Russia, and he launched this brutal war against Chechnya. He implemented strategies that are fairly similar to the ones that we see in Ukraine today, in that it was a total war concept. It didn't matter if it was civilian or military infrastructure. It was almost a sort of scorched earth approach. We could see how this was we could see this as a total war once again. I also thought that some of my key takeaways was the defense minister when he mentioned that his belief was that when Sweden would join NATO, we would also solve a lot of our connectivity problems. But that in reality, these problems haven't been solved simply by joining NATO. We still have problems with standardization, with the sort of material that we, for example, send to Ukraine. We also see in Germany, for example, that we have this Zeitenwende. They have recently implemented a new conscription model based on actually the Swedish conscription model. They have changed their constitution to allow for more military spending. They have sent a brigade to Lithuania, and they also have a new military strategy. And something that I think was really important that the German ambassador mentioned was the fact that Germany now is spending more on conventional forces than France and the UK together. I think this is a fact that is often forgotten, that we see this Zeitenwende is really taking place in real time. And Chancellor Merz have as a stated goal that Germany will have the strongest army in Europe. But the main challenge, as with most other countries in Europe, is okay, how do we bring along the population and increase the resiliency amongst the population when it comes to European security and understanding the immediate threat that we are seeing from Russia? I would also say that the industrial perspective that Karl-Heinz brought with him from Airbus was very enlightening, and as well as Mikael Granholm for that matter. We see that the industry need aggregated demands and resilient supply chains. But Karl-Heinz also very rightly pointed out that supply chains can not only be the tier one suppliers, it also needs to be lower end tier two, tier three suppliers as well. We also see how at the moment capacity, and also in the future capacity, it will be and is a bottleneck. There needs to be better production and faster production than the enemy, and we also need to have a state of continuous innovation and to foster this climate of continuous innovation. I also found it very interesting and very honest, to be very honest description, when they stated that some allies in Europe in particular are not putting the money where their mouths are. They say that they are fully behind Ukraine against Russia, and they say that they have a great understanding of the threat that Europe is facing, whilst at the same time they're not actually spending the money that is necessary. And I'll finish the summary with perhaps one of the nicest takeaways that I got from the Minister of Defense. He said that when Sweden send forces to Latvia, for example, we always get them back as better forces. And he made the reference to when we send a battalion to Latvia, we are not losing a battalion. Instead, we are gaining a brigade. And I think this is a perfect summary of how Sweden's NATO membership and the cooperation between European countries is mutually beneficial. And with that, I'll also wrap up the geopolitical garden for this year. Thank you for being with us.